Experience the world's most legendary racing events with iRacing. iRacing special events allow any member to compete in full-length multiplayer races based on some of the biggest events in motorsports all year round. Compete in virtual endurance races, such as the Daytona 24, Spa 24, and the Nürburgring 24 Hours. Take on some of the toughest races on the NASCAR schedule, such as the Daytona 500. We have events from disciplines all across the racing world, from the Indianapolis 500 to the Chili Bowl, from the Bathurst 1000 to the Crandon Championship. Our endurance special events utilize iRacing's team feature, where members can sign up and race together on their own team, swapping drivers throughout the race. Other events utilize iRacing Super Sessions, where you're not only racing against those on track, but against every driver taking part. And as every race progresses, watch and feel the track change with progressive time of day, dynamic weather and rain, and dynamic track debris and surface changes. Take on your favorite discipline or try a brand new racing challenge with our biggest races of the year, the iRacing Special Events. Learn more at iracing.com/special-events.
Take a trip up the Ventura Highway and back in time as we roll down the convertible and set our sights on Monterey, California for the next iRacing special event. It's a journey back to yesteryear as drivers prepare to do battle on one of America's most storied road courses, WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca. It's traditionally the land of speed, but today it is the land of old school cool. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 2026 IMSA Classic 500. My name is DJ Clark, delighted to be joined in the commentary booth by Reese Gardner. And Reese, it's a track that's near and dear to my heart as a Californian, but seeing these cars out here, it just warms my racing heart.
Yeah, it certainly does for me too, DJ. I've been looking forward to this event for quite some time. We're both cosplaying, going full 80s sportscaster with our fits, but the event calls for it, I think. This is a real throwback. Two of the craziest cars on the iRacing service dating from about a quarter of a century ago, if not more. A fantastic potential for great racing today.
Yeah, this is going to be a multi-class event, which is always interesting to see, but at a tight, twisty place like Laguna Seca, I think that raises the bar a little bit for everything. But before we get into those details, let's go ahead and bring you over into our 2026 iRacing special events calendar. As you can see there, we're in April at the IMSA Classic 500. May is going to be busy. Obviously, you think of May, you think of the Indianapolis 500, of course, the World 600, the 4 Hours of Thruxton, and the Nürburgring 24-hour coming up there as well, Reese.
Yeah, indeed. Later on in the year, good news for us Aussies. Bathurst 1000 in October, and in November, the Super Formula Light Mountain Showdown. Looking forward to those towards the end of the year. It is an absolutely stacked schedule of special events that we've got here, and you know, there's multiple time slots for all of these as well. So no matter where you are in the world, you're going to have a race on.
Yeah, it's one of the great things about iRacing is bringing these events to the masses. It really makes for a fantastic thing to be able to see. I'm particularly looking forward to some more of the endurance races that we have coming up. But we've got an endurance race here, and let's go ahead and talk you through the cars. And we do that by sending it over to the one and only Jeff Bradley.
The first time that they contacted me to drive the car, I'd actually just watched a race which I did at Pocono, and Don Devendorf was driving the car, and he crashed the car. I think the seatbelts became detached when he hit the wall, and he was pretty winded. Luckily, he wasn't seriously injured. And I had this vision of him on his hands and knees on the track next to the car, obviously having real difficulty breathing. Don couldn't do the next race, and so Trevor Harris, who just joined the project, I think suggested that they should call me. And I received this phone call, and it was Trevor on the end of the line, and says, would you come out and drive the Nissan? First thing that popped to my mind was Don on his hands and knees, and I said no. So no, not really. I'm not really that interested.
Our top class today, fantastic stuff for the Nissan GTP ZX Turbo. 795 horsepower from the 3-litre turbo V6 engine. This car is of the GTP class in the late 80s, pretty similar to the contemporary Group C prototypes over in Europe, but with less restrictions on fuel consumption and aerodynamics. Put all of that together and you get the car that pretty much defeated the Porsche 962 DJ. Fantastic stuff to see the Nissan GTP ZX Turbo out on track today. This thing has less weight and more downforce than a modern GTP car, so it's rapid.
Absolutely mind-blowing how quick these cars are. It's so difficult to be able to control. You just put that power down and it feels like it's squirming away from you. And we're going to see a good amount of these cars out on the track. This is going to be our top class for the series, but we also have that secondary class, the GT class as well. And we put together a great car here for the Audi GTO. Always one of our favorites to be able to check out. Let's go over and listen to Hans Stuck talk about this legendary machine.
It starts when you climb into the car by the window. You start up the engine. It's a unique noise, you know. Then this fantastic gearbox, a rally gearbox, which when I drove it today is still up to date, you know. To drive an all-wheel car is something really exciting. When you drive a normal car, you put the power down, some wheels are spinning, there's no spinning, there's just forward, you know, the bloody thing always moves forward. With this car, bam, you hit the head down and off it went, like on a rubber string, you know. You approach the corner sometimes in first, even second gear, you shift it down, you knew when you hit the throttle pedal, the boost is right there, and then when you really did it, you put the power down, the immediate response of the boost, the immediate power that hits you into the seat, the immediate grip and the immediate pulling around the corner with any spinning wheels, you know. I mean, those are moments in life you never forget.
Incredible machine here for our GTO class. Slower lap times than the GTPs, but the car is just as wild. Over 700 horsepower from an inline 5-cylinder turbo engine that still has lineage in Audi's cars today. In fact, probably the last inline 5-cylinder in production in the world. And of course, rally heritage in this car too. Audi brought the Quattro all-wheel drive system into rallying in the 80s, and they decided, well, let's take it road racing. Though they didn't end up taking any championships, they ended up showing the pace and potential of the Quattro system. So good, in fact, that it was banned. This remains the only four-wheel drive car to see success in IMSA competition to this day, DJ, and what a machine it is.
Yeah, and that's the sign you know you're doing something right, when they have to ban you because you're doing so well. Very, very impressive car. One of my favorite details about this, by the way, is the fact that alternator is misspelled because that's the way it was in the original machine. But let's talk about the track in which these drivers are going to do battle here. WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca. A little bit of a different layout than they may have raced back in the day with the infield section here, but you start off the run into Andretti Hairpin, probably your best overtaking opportunity on the track. From there, 3, 4, 5, the climb up the hill, second or third gear corners for the most part, and then turn 6, consistently rated as one of drivers' favorite corners in anywhere in the world. Then you head up the Rahal Straight into the world-famous corkscrew, a drop of over 10 stories as you head down through Rainy Curve and into turn 10. Final corner on the track being turn 11, another potential opportunity for overtaking. This place has hosted an IMSA event every year since 1997, which just goes to show how special, how legendary, and how beloved this circuit is, Reese.
Oh yes, Laguna Seca itself being around since the 1950s, and honestly, in many ways, it's just like how it was. I mean, there's a little bit more space between the track and the wall these days, obviously, but the same options apply. You have to keep your apex speed high. You've got to be careful of those curves. See the big red sausage there? I think that's going to take a few drivers out today.
I certainly think it will as well, but let's get down to brass tacks. Let's head on over to the grid as it's the fiercely Formula Merchants, which will lead the way for GTP, followed by Team Jacob Reed 4. Lightning by turn 6 will be in third place and Locked In Racing in fourth. Team Raul Roques Guardia will be in P5. Guessing that's a single driver team. Then GMF Racing will line up at 6 behind them. Nexus by Torkawa, it will be in P7. Then Working Title Racing, Team Yoko Leska and Slow Motion Racing Black will round out your top 10 of the GTP class, Reese.
SRP Silver Team, Javier Soto at the wheel, going to start in 11th, then Metamorphosis and Inex Racing 12th and 13th. The 7th row rounded out by Camel GT Japanese Gang. Togo Hisada was at the wheel in warm-up. Be interesting to see how he does. Nexus Talk Lab 86 in 15th alongside Mini Market Racing. Then we have Ride Sim Sport, Team John Schwartz, the Project 91 Academy 191 and Vesta Sport Blue rounding out our top 20.
As we move down into 21st, it's Tech Sports Sim Racing Black, followed by Mika Group M Esports, Arete Esports, and Twitch.tv/Ike. I think that's another solo one. That's Javier Sanchez going to be leading the way. Moving on over into the GTO category, it is Michael Polasek leading off for GeForce Racing, and then that Byte Colino 48 machine driven by Octavio Rondoletto. Noel Lundberg rolls off third, and then it's Rusty Spatula's Glacier Racing joint effort in P4. Iberian Racing's P5, followed by Project 26 by Lion GP. Satellite Racing will be 7th. Locked In is in 8th place, followed by Mook Racing Platinum, and then Tech Sports Sim Team rounds out your top 10.
In 11th, Tech Sports Sims Team Red, Jake Cummings at the wheel of that car for Formation Lap. Fusion 19 with Edward Shelley alongside. German SimRacing.de, Lars Wetzig is going to start the 37th overall alongside K-Sib Squared. Then Cutting Corny Blau, Engine TV on Twitch, and Your Moment Racing won the last cars to set qualifying times. There is one more GTO, the Wizards Team TE, which is on the grid but didn't get a time down in qualifying.
That could hurt them here, as we mentioned a little bit earlier, that overtaking could be at a premium. Laguna Seca, a difficult circuit to get that overtake done on, Reese, but as drivers head out on the parade lap here at this point, it's going to be an interesting run. Let's go ahead and take a look at the race analysis, which will be bringing us through. As we said, this is a 500-kilometer race that has been brought up there. There you can see the rest of those details, Reese. This has the potential for a fantastic race.
Yeah, and there's two schools of thought when it comes to driver lineups. This is one of those rare endurance events that you can solo if you want to. A lot of cars only have one driver at the wheel, but there's probably more than a few in this field that are going to give 2 or more drivers a go at driving the car over the course of this one. 100 incident points is the DQ limit, but you will get your first drive through at 35 incidents, and then every 25 thereafter until you reach that horrific 100. 20, my apologies, is the incident limit there before you get a drive-through. It's going to be very easy to pick up off tracks around here. The track's surrounded by grass, DJ. As we take a look at the weather, it is nice and toasty there. 95 Fahrenheit track temperature, 67 in the air. It's a great day for racing.
That's exactly what you want to see, and none of that textbook Monterey fog creeping on in. Drivers headed now down into turn 10. This GTP field, Christian Hildgaard ready to lead the way for Fiercely Formula Merchants in that number 11 machine at the front of the grid. iRacing sedan pulls off down into pit lane, and we get ready to put 500 kilometers on the clock. Race fans, the IMSA Classic 500 is ready to go as the green flag flies, and we are racing for Monterey, California. It is a good getaway there for Hildgaard, going to lead the charge. Jacob Reed trying to fight him on the outside, but look at this. Unai Ortiz in that third place position, trying to send a little bit of a move. Is behind them. The GTOs are also already up and going. Challenge for the lead. This is not done yet. Reed, Ortiz, Hildgaard, everybody duking it out for the top 4 in GTP.
And they are. 2 GTPs have gone off in turn 2. Dean Dibdal and Metamorphosis and Alexei Alomar for Inex off at the Andretti hairpin as the GTOs take their green flag. It is a solid start from the G-Force Racing entry. They're pretty much single file into turn 2, but Niels Kaur and Satan Mir side by side in the Audis for a position just outside the top 5, I believe. There's some contact happening already back in the GTOs. The GTPs already at the corkscrew. It's a short layout here at Laguna Seca. They're going to be coming up on lap traffic very shortly. Yeah, they will be coming up very, very quickly. I want to give credit here to your second place driver, Jacob Reed. Great start in the game. I think 2 or 3 positions off the downbeat. A little bit of those off tracks that you talked about, Reese, in the GTP category. And G-Force Racing, though, starting to pull a big gap, big off there in the back in GTP. I think that was down for about 4th position. That was Yoni Hagner or Luciano Wolvets. But we take a look back at this lead battle in GTO. Hildgaard and Reed. Ortiz trying to not let them slip off into the distance. Indeed. Just noted those 2 cars that towed back to pit lane. Brewster Carvalho and the Nexus Torque Lab car, and the Ride Sim Sport entry of Thorsten Ulrich fell down the order. Unfortunately, those first couple of lap shenanigans always present, even in a race as long as this. But it seems like there's a reasonable amount of space being given amongst the GTP field as things stand. They are not afraid to go for it at turn 6, though, and that is going to be a change for position. That's Ortiz able to sneak by. Jacob Reed going up the hill. Oh, and Reed loses it. And Ortiz loses it, down through the corkscrew. Reed's able to gain the position back. Calamity in a matter of 2 corners. Yeah, it looked like he just lost the rear end on the way through the corkscrew. You've got to be careful of the way the elevation and the crown of the road changes through the corkscrew there. Unfortunately, Unai Ortiz still on cold tires as well. The downforce may be working, but the rubber has to work with it first, as we'll get our first replay of the race. This is going to be the incident that happened down at turn 2. And there you see that look to the inside. Oh, that was heavy damage. And here's a second one. Swallowed up, coming down to the Andretti hairpin, just a little bit too much in a spear forward. I have to say here, Reese, both of those moves this early on in a 500-kilometer race, maybe a little bit too aggressive too early. Yeah, you can't afford to be that aggressive. You need to drive with your eyes on stalks effectively, especially around a track as narrow as Laguna Seca is. I mean, sure, it looks wide enough looking at these trackside cameras, but when you're actually behind the wheel, especially in the GTP, it's just so much speed that you're carrying. You don't have much time to react or room when something happens ahead of you. Checking back in with Michael Polasek, who is in the lead of our GTO class at the moment. Looks like a race happening a bit further back for second place, though. Octavio Rondoletto has Noah Lundberg for company.
Yeah, Lundberg trying to close down on that multicolored number 48 machine. Rondoletto, obviously a driver that we're very familiar with in the sim racing world. I saw him quite a bit back in the day in the Precision Racing League running on the Cup side of things, but Rondoletto showing that he can turn left and right and doing it to great aplomb here. Pressure put on by Lundberg. 1.2 seconds, the gap back to fourth place in Joni Hegner. See, little bit of a look here. You can get a pass done, go side by side down into the corkscrew, but thus far, looks like Lundberg's just ready to kind of let him see what Rondoletto is going to do.
Yeah, indeed. I think at these early stages, you don't want to be going for those huge dives up the inside, as we're going to have another look at what happened to Ortiz here. Just getting past Jacob Reed, hits the apex curve. Looked like the car was already gone before he got to that apex. Got collected by another car on the way through, but fortunately, no other victims of that incident.
Is that a situation of maybe just carrying too much speed down through into that corner and the car, you mentioned it at the time, tires not necessarily up to temperature yet?
Yeah, I think so. You're going to be driving with a pretty aggressive brake bias to the rear in the GTP just to get the rotation into the corners, and that can catch you out when the tyres are cold. Also, probably the pressure of having made the pass there. He wanted to get back on the power as quickly as he could, but probably just lost it thinking about how to keep Jacob Reed behind. Looks like lap traffic is upon us now as our GTPs have passed our first Audis.
Yes, and I believe that was Luke Stubbs for Luke Racing Platinum. Taking a look here, up farther in the field, side-by-side battle. This is in that GTO category for about 5th or 6th place. Call it 5th place, or call it 6th place, is that's Hyperion Racing and Locked In Racing duking it out. Locked In losing that position. They're trying to fight back here. Gets a good run coming down through the corkscrew, but again, just losing a little bit of that give and take. Takes a look down to the inside, going into 11. Not quite able to get it done. A little bit of contact there. And that's something we're going to see, I think, a little bit of today, especially as these laps continue to wind down. Drivers getting a little frustrated, maybe giving the bumper just slightly.
Yeah, Saitamiya will now have a slight bit of damage to that front bumper as he chases down Derek Heiberger, checking back in with our GTPs here as they make their way down to the first turn, keeping a close eye on the bright yellow machine in the background of Yuri Valek as he chases Unai Ortiz and Hayata Asaga, who is driving with Togo Hisada in that Camel GT Japanese gang entry. Looks like some moves being made in the infield, and oh dear, that looked like a bit of a technical issue there for Ortiz. He's in the wall again.
Yeah, Ortiz having a problem. That's hit off into the wall, and I think he may have had a little bit of internet connectivity issues, and that could have been what led to that hit. We focus back in on working title racing. This is Seamus Power navigating his way through traffic. And at the top of the hill here in turn 6, this is where you don't want to see traffic. This is a difficult corner to be able to get by at the calmest of times, let alone in traffic. Reese, looks like we've got another replay, though, to pull up. A little side-by-side action down into the Andretti hairpin in the GTO category. Oh!
Yeah, righto. Looked like a bit too much power application from one of the cars there. One of them was the number 23 Project 91 car. Oh, and it looks like another problem down at turn 11 this time for Alex Chilcutt. He has lost the position to Asaga there, I believe. I mean, these early stages, those kinds of mistakes are going to be made. It's how you recover from them that really is the difference maker. Now Chilcutt has got 2 other cars for company, Javier Soto and John Schwartz.
Yeah, Soto took that look down to the Andretti hairpin, trying to make it work around the outside. You can make that play, especially early on in the stint. But now I think he's going to have to rely on a little bit of lap traffic as they dove down the corner there. Not able to get it to play into turn number 3. And that's going to open up a little bit of a gap here for Chilcutt, but more traffic up ahead. And as you said, Reese, with such a short lap time as this is going to be a constant traffic battle all the way through.
Yeah, especially now, and with the Audi field covered by about 13 seconds or so at the moment, about 23 seconds, that's near enough half a lap at the pace that the GTPs are running. Pole position was a 1:10.85. So a lap around here can be completed in 70 seconds in one of those Nissans. So you're going to be coming up on Audis left, right and center, and as you can see already, there's basically no room for maneuvering. You can get out of the corner with a clear track ahead of you. By the time you get to the next one, you've got a GTO in front.
Yeah, and this is exactly what it is. A little bit of a look down to the inside there for Schwartz as the hunter of Javier Soto now becomes the hunted. Now Schwartz looking like he may be under a little bit of pressure as well as this battle behind him with McKinley, Delvial, and Pekovic all starting to play off as they navigate traffic. That's the 13 there, Metamorphosis Racing, trying to work their way through this traffic and hold on to positions. Don't blink here at this point, Reese, otherwise you're going to lose about 30 different incidents taking place on track.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, that's a bit of a dive there from Asaga as he makes his way past Octavio Rondoletto, still embroiled in this fight with Noel Lundberg for second place in the GTO class. And there's a lot of give and take, as you said. Compromise has to be made. If you're a GTO and you've got the GTP coming up on you, you can see it just from the trackside cameras, the speed differential between these cars, especially in those fast corners. So you'll have to be prepared to just sacrifice an entry here and there to make sure that the GTP gets through cleanly.
Looks like we've got another replay to pull up here. This is going to be the number 7 having an incident a little bit ago. We'll take a look at that. This is down into turn 3. It's checked up there, courtesy of traffic. Maybe just a little bit too early on the power there, Reese, with that huge power band that you talked about. Very easy to spin those rear tires in the GTP.
Yeah, quite a narrow power band as well. Obviously it's a turbo engine, so the turbo will kick in at a certain point in the rev range. If you're low on revs in a corner, you put the power down, you're expecting to have to ease onto the power, but then the power doesn't come, so you put the power on a little more, and then it reaches the range where the turbo kicks in, and suddenly it's too late to do anything about it. Fortunately for the Audis, they have a turbo engine as well, but they're four-wheel drive, so at least you can pull yourself out of the slide.
Yeah, and we heard Hans Stuck in that intro talking a little bit about that, just how planted those Audis really and truly are. Because there we go down to the inside in turn 10. Good battle here in the GTO and GTP category. Trying to sort themselves out. That's the number 5 machine. That's Tech Sports Sim Team Black. Onofre behind the wheel. Getting chased down here, splitting the difference, pulling the Hakkinen and Schumacher coming down the main straightaway. Onofre and Andrew Brown trying to figure out how to be able to get their way on by. They're going to be in a side-by-side battle up in front. My goodness, everything flying off here.
Indeed, slightly better exit there for Edwin Onofre as they find their way through all right to turn 3. Checking back a little bit further, it seems the gap has decreased between Rondoletto and Lundberg. We'll be focusing a little more forward here coming into turn 5. I absolutely love this corner. It's my favorite on the circuit. Banked on the way out. You can carry so much speed as you power uphill, but Edwin Onofre under a lot of pressure from Andrew Brown here. They've got to be careful through turn 6. It's such a harsh curve on the inside, so much speed you carry through as well. Not much time to react if you turn in just a millimeter too early.
Yeah, and Tech Sport Racing, obviously very familiar to those of us in North America who follow a lot of sports car racing with entries in everything from GT4 to TC, and a big part of GR86 Cup competition. We're going to go back and take a look at the replay here for the GTO start. We had some pretty crazy incidents here. Looks like we lost a few more drivers than we originally thought, Reese.
Oh yeah, it's one of the satellite racing cars going around, and as the field comes up behind them, what on earth do you do? Where do you go? And that resulted in quite a bit of damage for the satellite car, as well as, I believe, the German simracing.de entry. So only 2 cars actually ended up visiting the pits out of that, though. So while it looked quite chaotic out there, I don't think it resulted in any lasting damage for most of the field.
Checking back in on the battles in the GTO category. This is about for 12th place. This is Engine 3 TV on Twitch, Yaw Moment Racing, and Root Racing Platinum, the drivers on your screen. And of course, being Benjamin Massey, Chris Steiner, and Luke Stubbs, getting a rare moment of reprieve here from the GTOs coming on through, and they're able to race their own battle. Good run here, coming on for Steiner. Not able to make it play coming into turn 4.
Yes, but now the understeer will kick in a little bit through these high-speed corners. The Audi 90 here is based mostly on the road-going Audi 90. Apparently, the only body panel that it shares with the road car is the roof. Otherwise, it is a purpose-built racing machine. But still, I think preserving that typical Audi layout of the engine being slightly ahead of the front axle. It's quite a front-heavy machine, which means it does understeer quite a bit. Rotating it into the corners and powering out using the four-wheel drive system to your advantage is the way to go fast in this GTO machine. And, well, the GTP traffic finding their way past without much drama. So these guys can focus on each other for the time being. Who's last of the late breakers into the Andretti hairpin?
Checking back in on Slow Motion Racing Black, who leads a little bit of a battle here between Team Yokoleska and Camel GT Japanese gang. Hayata Asaga, one of the drivers you've been mentioning a little bit earlier, Reese. This is the battle for about 7th place position. The 444 there trying to close in. If they can get anything to play, and that's working title racing. Seamus Power in the white machine right up ahead of them. And this is one of those situations, traffic in with traffic taken away. I think if you are the 444 here of Yokoleska, you have to know, don't overpush the car. Your opportunity is going to come.
Yeah, they'll have their F3 black boxes up to see where the next GTO is. Just coming out of turn 6 at the moment is Alexei Seleznev in the number 28. And look at this, how much speed they carry down the back stretch. They are almost on them by the time they get to the corkscrew. Meanwhile, the race for second in GTO is still going on, and it looks like Rondoletto and Lundberg have been joined. Seems like Joni Hagner in the Rusty Spatula's Glacier Racing machine is going to join the fray, but I think traffic is going to affect that as well in short order.
Well, traffic's already affected that GTO battle that we saw for 7, as that has expanded out a little bit more. The 444 of Team Yokoleska not really able to close in as much as they would like to. Have to get by quickly going down to the Andretti hairpin. Credit there to Asaga as well in that number 6, the Camel GT Japanese gang. As he was able to get down to the inside of the GTO traffic, close that gap, and keep the pressure on. In this GTO battle for P2, a lot of patience being displayed, I think, by Bloomberg. Reese, I've got to think he knows that he's got that pressure from behind from the form of Joni Hagner, and he is not wanting to slow themselves down. He wants to keep your leader, Michael Polasek, in sight.
Yeah, Polasek currently leading the GTO class by 2.8 seconds, which the conclusion of their 12th lap of a 500-kilometer race is not nothing, but it's practically 1,000th in the grand scheme of things. Keeping an eye on these GTPs as they find their way down the hill. It's an incredible drop from the corkscrew down to turn 11. Looks like these guys are going to have some drama to contend with up ahead. Gabriel Martinez in the 111 has just gone off ahead of these guys, and there he is recovering in the background.
Yeah, and that has a very easy way to turn into incident fixation, where you just kind of see that car and follow it. I've got to give a lot of credit here to the number 6, Camel GT Japanese gang. That's about the 2nd or 3rd time in about as many laps as we've seen them make some fairly aggressive but heads-up moves to get around lap traffic. This is really impressive. We're going to take a look at a route here from the number 8 machine, as it looked like there was some pretty hefty contact, Reese.
Tech Sports Sim Team Red, Jake Cummings at the wheel, coming up to the corkscrew with a GTP for company, and yes, he got absolutely whammoed on the way in. It's a difficult part of the circuit to make passes. You know, there'll be two perspectives on that one, two sides of the coin, but very clearly here on live pictures you can see how the track meanders a little on its way into the corkscrew. So pick your line and pick it early is the lesson to learn from that.
Yeah, it's a fairly interesting braking zone. I don't want to say it's super technical because once you sort of lock into it and figure it out, I hear this a lot. Once you've done it and you know how to get it right, it's not that hard of a corner, the corkscrew.
No.
But what does make it interesting is that sort of shift in the track. You're able to straight line it, don't get me wrong, but as you said, very difficult. This is Jake Cummings, the United States driver, Tech Sports Sim Team Red. Looks like he has been able to get that GTO repaired after some pretty hefty damage, and he's back out on track.
Showing off his H-pattern shifter. Of course, these being top-level race cars from the late 1980s, this was before the advent of flappy paddles on the steering wheel. They're still using the clutch and the gear stick, at least in the Audis. The Nissans, with the way the transmission is in that car, you can get away with just lifting off the power while you shift gears. You don't necessarily need to use the clutch, but it does help for smoothness. The Audi, though, you absolutely have to use the clutch on the upshifts, otherwise you'll be stuck in neutral, revving the absolute tail end off that 5-cylinder engine.
Side-by-side battle here. This is for about the 6th place position. Seamus Power and Solo Schwani trying to sort themselves out. The number 6 there, Camel GT gang trying to get in there as well. Holding off on a defensive run down into the corner. There we go. Team Camel GT doing a great job on working title racing.
Beautiful stuff around the outside. It looks like Asaga is going to have the run out of turn 11, but the inside for the Andretti hairpin belonging to Seamus Power. But Asaga incredibly late on the brakes. He's going to try and keep the outside line going, but not quite. Seems like he was a little too wide there. And Seamus Power retakes the spot back up to 8th position in the GTP class. Worth pointing out, the Camel GT Japanese gang car started in 14th. They're one of the best movers in the GTP field right now.
I think they've fallen here in the last couple of laps. They were up in that battle up towards the pointy end of that, and towards Team Yokoleska up for 7th, and they now run 9th. Maybe a little bit of a misstep there for them, but still an impressive run. And we pointed out earlier, very decisive in their moves, which I think is going to prove to be a big point for them over the course of the race.
That's Seamus Power going across the gravel trap at the corkscrew. Well, Alex Zanardi made it work in that famous kart race in 1999, I believe, but the same is not going to happen there for Seamus Power. Back behind Asaga, and now under pressure from Alex Chilcutt, who, don't forget, is trying to work his way back into the top 7 after losing positions early. They're coming up on some traffic as well, as Noel Lundberg still fighting off Joni Hagner here. Battle for 2nd and 3rd in GTO, and around goes Asaga. He's going to take Chilcutt with him.
And that is exactly what we talked about a little bit earlier. You saw Asaga get wide, get off into the gravel, and then try to apply that pressure and on the throttle pedal. And Reese, it just looked like there that he got onto the throttle too hard, too fast, and the turbo just got him out.
Credit to Asaga, though. He waited for Alex Chilcutt to start rolling again before he started getting back up to speed himself. And I think that's one of the things that I love the most about the community that has arisen around these cars in particular. They have that real old-school gentleman's racer mentality. If you hit someone off, you give them the position back. Excellent stuff to see from Asaga. Replay, meanwhile, for the number 19 machine. We're going to see what happened here to this GTO. Another miscommunication online, this time coming into turn 10, DJ.
And with those kind of incidents, Reese, is this like a I'm stuck in traffic situation where you've got to blame the car that is behind them? Is that where the blame traditionally falls?
Yeah, it is an interesting question. I suppose the incidents that we have seen so far, it's definitely the car behind's fault. I mean, it's in the racing rulebook, full stop. It's up to the passing car to make the move safely. But I think with how much speed these guys are carrying through in the GTPs, it can be very difficult to make those decisions. Looks like the drama's unfolded again, though, down at turn 2 for Alex Chilcutt and Asaga. This time it looks like Edwin Onofre was 3 wide with them through turn 2, and they've all gone off.
You hate to see that there for Asaga. We were singing his praises a little bit earlier on, and now, of course, commentator's curse coming back to strike. That's... All right, we're going to take a look at the replay here of Strati in the number 81, as it looks like they've had an issue on the circuit. This is coming up to the corkscrew lap traffic. Side by side in the GTO category, catches that inside curve. Oh, and nails into the 81 for good measure as well. That was just an incident that looked like a slow motion train wreck.
Yeah, Javier Soto was at the wheel of the GTP there, and he was completely blameless in all of that. There was only so much that the GTO could do to arrest that slide, and, well, what do? You get on the brakes and come to a complete stop with cars coming up behind you, or do you try to hedge your bets and go around the outside where you think they're going to go? Regardless, that is going to make it the 5th GTP that is towed back to the pit lane thus far in this race. They are still the most numerous class out on track at the moment.
Checking back in on Hayata Asaga in the number 6. You can see some damage to the front of this Nissan GT. And obviously, when we talk about this, there is a little bit of aerodynamic problem. But let's get back to that in a second. Reese, you saw this happen live. This is the 3 wide coming down into turn 2.
Yes, Asaga and Chilcutt battling hard, and you see Edwin Onofre behind them. That was a big move from Asaga. Got up the inside, but was out of control. And then Onofre comes through just as Chilcutt tries to make the cutback. So once again, it's a case of an aggressive move turning into a desperate recovery just in time for another car to arrive on the scene and effectively be an innocent victim in all of that.
All right, this is the number 44 on your screen. This is Hyperion Racing with Derek Heiberger, Samit Emir, and Brett Gardner flanking him. Gardner actually taking a look down to the inside. Let's go back to that point we were making before the replay, Reese. Aerodynamics on these cars. We're obviously talking about stuff from the 80s. Big wiggle there for the 111 GMF Racing, and that's going to see them out to the outside. Aerodynamic damage on these cars, how much does it affect them compared to, say, a a modern day GTP?
Well, I think to put it simply, effectively, the Nissan here makes its downforce in roughly the same way as a modern GTP car does. A lot of the downforce, in fact, I think a higher proportion of the downforce compared to modern cars is generated through the floor. You only need to take a look at the rear of the GTPs to see those massive Venturi tunnels underneath the car. It's effectively a ramp, a wedge that allows the air to pass over the top of the car while feeding air through the tunnels underneath the car and providing massive downforce. The issue with that is, you've got your typical downforce mantra. The faster you go through a corner, the more downforce is produced, and so that increases cornering speeds up to a point. You get a slight bit of damage to the floor, and that messes up the whole balance of the car. Fortunately, Laguna Seca has a lot of flat curbs and not many bumps around the side of the circuit, so it's going to be very hard to damage those floors, but it is still possible.
It is, but these drivers almost looking like they're doing their best to damage those floors. Hyperion Racing's Derek Heiberger holding off Brett Gardner right now. Brett on a recovery drive, if we remember, courtesy of that incident that we saw. On a fight back here, Tech Sport Racing, looking to see what they're able to do. Oh, looks like we've had a moment here that we're going to take a look at the replay. This is the GTO leader, of course, being Michael Polasek, down into the corkscrew. Big old slide from the 45.
That's the weight transfer coming over that crown in the road I was talking about earlier, and Polasek has lost a few seconds but still remains in the lead of his class. 0.8 of a second between himself and Ottavio Rondoletto, who now does not have Noel Lundberg and Joni Hagner for company. We'll check back in with them in a bit, but for the moment, a two-way battle between Heiberger and Gardner. Derek Heiberger, a driver that I've been familiar with in previous broadcasts as well. He absolutely monstered an Acura GT3 over a season of racing. Fantastic driver himself, but we'll see how he handles the Audi here. It's been a consistent drive from him thus far, making up 3 places overall and keeping it nice and tidy when it comes to GTP traffic. Let's see what John Babineau in the number 1 machine behind has to say about that.
This is good patience here from Babineau, just holding back a little bit, working his way through, recognizing he's not in a battle, pushing when he needs to push. He'll be able to get this pass done right now on Amir, coming down the front straightaway. There he is, easy as you please. That's exactly what you want to see. Locked in Racing, holding off on this battle with Hyperion Racing's Derek Heiberger just eking ahead, but it looks like for every step forward he takes, he loses one as well. It's a real interesting situation for number 44.
Yes, it seems like he's making up some time on Saint Amir in the locked-in racing Audi. You remember earlier in the race, that was the car we saw run into the back of another GTO and get some damage to the front. Might have affected their pace, but we'll have to wait and see on that. I hear another replay is coming, so we will see here one of our GTPs in turn 6. Looked like he turned in a bit too early, maybe got a bit crossed up over the curb. Definitely slid on the exit. Very skippy front end and a rear end that likes to get loose.
Well, and that's the most high commitment corner on the track. You're brushing the brake, maybe even just lifting, depending on how confident you are in the tires, the aerodynamics of the car. And you just get, as you said, Reese, a little bit upset about that car, it will spin around on you. Got another replay coming at you. This is going to be the number 24 machine, I believe, Loop Racing Platinum for Luke Stubbs. Let's see what happens here to this purple and silver machine. Into the edge ready hairpin. A little bit of a how you doing there. And that is Camel GT Japanese gang, Asaga again. And I've got to be worried here if I'm Asaga. As we said earlier, there is an incident limit, and you will start accruing penalties if you hit that limit.
Yeah, indeed. To be clear, 35 incidents is the limit before you get slammed with a drive-through penalty, and then every 20 incidents you gather thereafter, another penalty, with an ultimate limit of 100 before you get disqualified from the race. Meanwhile, cue the Jaws music. Jacob Reed has been making up time steadily on Christian Hildgaard. The only 2 cars in our GTP class, aside from Gabi Martinez and Hayata Asaga, to still occupy the same positions they started in class. And, well, Christian Hildgaard was responding nicely on the previous lap. 112.4 for him, 113.1 for Jacob Reed, but he is coming. All it takes is a GTO in the wrong place.
Yeah, and that's exactly what he's going to be coming up on here. It's a little bit of a weave there for the fiercely forward Merchants machine of Hildgaard. And compared to Reed, who was just able to sort of dive that down to the inside, still will lose a little bit of time. But there is that gap as it continues to come down. Look at that on lap 24, 1.3 seconds taken out. I've got to imagine traffic played into that race, but it's still an impressive run here from Reed.
Absolutely. You know, I've had plenty of experience behind the wheel of prototypes, not this one specifically, but I did enough racing in the old HPD LMP2 car to know that the best way to negotiate traffic is to just bide your time and wait for the exits of the corners. Watch this. They got Audis in front of them, they put on the power, and the GTPs effectively just turn on the afterburners. Look at the closing speed down the front stretch here. Already through turn 1, most of them are by the Audi, and into the first corner they come, move made. And, well, looks like there's going to be a slight change there between the GTPs. That's not for position. Looks like one of the lap cars there, just letting them go. But, yeah, I think biding your time, being careful, waiting for that pass to come to you is going to make all the difference. Speaking of, that's a bit of extra traffic there, and our leaders are together.
All right, they are on top of each other now. Reed gets to pick his moment of when he wants to be able to make this attack. Near perfect line coming out of turn 5 as they climb up the hill into turn 6. Looking out the back here of Christian Hildgaard. And Hildgaard nailing that corner. Absolute perfection, able to gain a couple of tenths of a second over Jacob Reed as they plunge down the corkscrew.
But hello once again to a GTO as they make their way out. Hildgaard was stuck behind that Audi driven by Chris Steiner for the Your Moment Racing crew, and that's brought Jacob Reed back into it. Wheel dipped into the gravel for Christian Hildgaard out of turn 10. It's on.
It is on. Up ahead of them, they've got some more GTP traffic. Going to have to watch out for that, as that similar speed could throw a little bit of a loop here for your leader, Christian Hildgaard. Let's see if the driver maybe hops out of the way. No, they're going to stay together. Good for Reed to be able to just keep everything on it. As Reed continues to poke and prod. And they've got nothing to really worry about here. Locked In Racing, who runs third in class right now, 13 seconds behind them. So they are pretty much free to duke this out, go side by side as much as they want to.
Yeah, huge gap for this lead battle. But I think maybe this GTP lapper might result in some consternation, at least for Christian Hildgaard. Yuri Valik in the number 7 there. Driver who started that car in 16th in class is now 2 positions down and falling a lap down here. He's going to let them go on the way through turn 9. So not much to talk about regarding that. To credit to Reed and Hildgaard, they took their time, they were staying patient, and it's paid off for them once again. Just got to make their way past the 925 and Kevin Gibson here, and they'll have some clear track ahead of them for a bit.
Yeah, which is something not a lot of drivers can say. Clear behind for both. This will be a 2-car battle then, once again. Down to the Andretti hairpin. A little bit of a tighter line on entry and apex. A little bit more of what we would call a traditional diamond pattern for Jacob Reed. But I'd say it all kind of worked out in the wash as Hildgaard rolling a little bit more speed along the high line on that corner. But both drivers look like they came out pretty similar to each other.
Looks like on the infield, Hildgaard is gaining a bit more time there out of turn 4. And excuse me, I think that part of that is due to him just getting on the power slightly earlier, carrying more speed out of the corner, which forces more air over the front end and allows it to stick a little better. Not just racing for the lead, though. 6th place is on as well. And we have Metamorphosis running a little bit deep there out of turn 3. Raul Roses Guardia and Seamus Powell will take advantage.
A little bit of dirt kicked up on the outside as they pass some GTO traffic. Down into turn 5 they go. Bringing those cars back up to speed. Your leaders starting to separate a little bit more. Hildgaard growing the gap over Jacob Reed ever so slightly. They will have some GTO traffic to contend with here shortly. Meanwhile, good run there in the 7th place position for Guardia.
Well, just as you say that, I think you cursed him, DJ, around out of the corkscrew.
I absolutely cursed him, and it just goes to show the margins you are dealing with on this circuit. Absolutely infinitesimal. Just barely get it wrong, you're going to be off the spinner.
Yeah, massive elevation changes, huge dips as they make their way out of the corkscrew in particular. So Guardia will now be back with Joko Leskala and Andrew McKinley briefly for 10th spot as our leaders have a bit more traffic on hand here, making their way past Derek Heiberger. Interesting. It seems like Heiberger no longer has company. He has been passed by Brett Gardner, and Satan Mir is now behind him. So there's been some spacing out there in that top 5 battle for GTO.
And also some spacing out here in the battle for the top spot of the GTE class as they're stuck behind a little bit of lap traffic was Jacob Reed. That's going to extend that gap upwards of near a second. We get some love here farther back in the field. This is the race for the lead in the GTO category. The top 3 separated by not a whole lot here. Pretty much about a second and a half between G-Force Racing, Bike Dot Colino, and Noel Lundberg.
Yes, Michael Polasek in the lead of class has been consistent but not impervious. He is not invincible, as we saw from that mistake earlier at this very corner, the corkscrew. And Tavio Rondoletto's had a very consistent run at these last few laps. I think him and Noel Lundberg behind are effectively matching Polasek blow for blow right now, regardless of the GTP traffic coming through. Our GTO drivers are only separated by a few hundredths of a second on lap time at most.
And a little bit of a hold up there for Polasek. Rondoletto maybe able to get a couple of tenths of a second, clawed back in as he was basically on top of the GTP entry, coming down into turn 11, the final corner. But Polasek will continue to maintain that advantage, the gap about 0.8 of a second back. We take a live look there at Michael Polasek. Love to see that. Gloves all there taken in. The New Jersey native. See a little drum kit in the background as well.
Oh, well, I guess if he gets taken out, he'll at least have something to take his anger out on.
Yeah, there you go. Taking the willpower approach, as we like to say. Will, a very well-known drummer.
Can I get a badum tish?
Hey!
More GTP traffic coming through here. The battle ongoing between Hayato Osaga and Andrew Brown. They're going to make life difficult for Niels Kor just up ahead of them, which may or may not be the opportunity for Polasek to dispatch another one of his class competitors. They are 3 wide ever so briefly with the satellite car on the way through. You get a glimpse of them side by side on the way out of turn 10 there as well. Seems like no matter where you are in the field, you have someone to race with. Having said that, though, the top 2 in GTO are the only cars in their class within a second of each other right now.
That is impressive, and I think that is partially to blame a little bit for traffic playing out the way that it was. But let's remember here that we are only about a third of the way, or a quarter of the way through this race. Now, we are expecting a 2-stop strategy here for these drivers, but we've been told that they could come in a little bit early, maybe try to go early on the first stint. So I would say here at this point, Reese, we're looking at an area where theoretically, if you're going for a short pit on this opening stint, I think the window could start to open here in just a few laps' time.
Yeah, looks like it. You've got to keep in mind as well that these cars don't have automatic pit speed limiters like modern race cars have. You are entirely in control of the car's speed through pit lane. Your right foot is basically what decides whether or not you get a black flag for speeding in the pits or not. So I guess keep an eye out for GTP pit stops starting in about 15 laps time or so. Roughly the same for the GTOs. We'll see when they decide to come in, though. It's going to be difficult to try and judge where you're going to come out, because if you're racing for position with someone, you've got all of this traffic out on the circuit, there's no real way to tell what you're going to encounter on your way out of pit road.
No, there's not. As it does look like we've got an excellent pass taking place here. We're going to take a look at the replay. This is the 111 machine, GMF Racing. A little bit of traffic, split the difference, 10 turn 10, beautiful.
Lovely stuff. There was a lot of skill, a lot of trust in that maneuver. It's a fast entry there to turn 10. That's banked on the way through, so you can carry a lot of speed through it. Going 3 wide into that corner is often a recipe for disaster, but not on that occasion.
Yeah, really played it to perfection there. And by the way, for those wondering, lap 46 would be the 1/3 mark of this race. So theoretically, if you are doing a 3-stop strategy, that is when you would come in. We've been told the GTPs can go a little bit longer than that. That's about perfect in the GTO window. So maybe starting to get into that a little bit later unless somebody wants to play a little games.
I think we're going to be seeing some games here for the GTO lead. It's quite close now between Polasek and Rondoletto, and it may or may not come down to who has the better initial pit stop when that time eventually comes. Currently, about 0.6 of a second or so between our GTO leaders.
And we're going to take this time to roll you through an update from the IMSA Classic 500. DJ Clark and Reese Gardner joining you along the way. We are witnessing controlled chaos here at WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca. As we take a look at the standings, it is Fiercely Formula Merchants leading the way over Team Jacob Reed in that GTP class. GMF Racing, Slow Motion Racing, and Locked In round out your top 5. Metamorphosis working title, Team Jan Schwartz, Inex Racing, and Team Rosas Guardia round out your top 10. Let's flip over that page and we get into 11th position with Team Yokoleskala and Vesta Sport Blue Reese.
Indeed we do. Mirmika Group ME Sports in 13th, followed by the Project Academy 91 Academy and Camel GT Japanese Gang. Last cars on the lead lap in GTP. Tech Sports, Sim Team, Arete, Nexus, Talk Lab and Mini Market are going to be fighting to get their way back onto that lead lap. So we'll find our way to the last few cars here. A few retirements already from the Heikki 360 ES entry, Lightning by Turn 6, the second Nexus Talk Lab car, and Ride Sim Sport. Would appear that there's a few teams that will not be seeing the finish in this time slot. How's GTO looking, DJ?
GTO's pretty close. GeForce Racing and Bite.Colino 48. Less than a second separating those two. That's pole the second run to Weddle with Noel Lundberg holding into third place. Rusty Spatula's Laser Racing joined in fourth place, then Project 26 Lion GP in fifth. Techsport Sim Team, Hyperion Racing Locked In, KSIB Squared, and Fusion 19. The top 9 drivers there on your lead lap. As we move down to the second half of the field, drivers looking a lap down from their leader.
Indeed, Cutting Corny Blau, Engine TV on Twitch, Wizards Team T, Your Moment, and Mook Racing Platinum on a lap down. It's 2 laps downs for the Tech Sports Sim Team red car, which has gathered some damage. Satellite Racing Core Machine, 4 laps down. They took damage early on as well.
All right, we want to take this moment to remind you about iRacing Arcade. That's right, iRacing Arcade is now available on Steam for normally $24.99, on sale 20% off this weekend. iRacing Arcade is a third-person arcade-style racing title featuring pocket-sized versions of premier real-world cars and circuits. We're talking about Barber Motorsports Park, Imola, Mexico City, Miami, plus the FIA Formula 4, IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championships GTP class, and of course Porsche 911s. Race across multiple categories with a physics model that's easy to learn and yet endlessly rewarding to master in this accessible racer built for game controllers. Rise from rags to riches in the extensive career mode as you build a fully customizable motorsport campus with garages, engines, chassis shops, plus R&D buildings. Team management, you can go in and have players manage multiple series at once with hired drivers to compete in ones that you're not able to do. Compete online with up to 11 competitors worldwide and hone your racing line as you chase top times on the global leaderboards. A release for PlayStation and Xbox will follow later on this year. Back into the IMSA Classic 500 as we cross over on lap 38. This is your battle up for the GTO category as Polisek continues to hold off Rondeletto, but that gap closing on in, and we've got to bring into this conversation Joni Hagner as well. This is a 4-car battle for the top position, Reese.
Yeah, it looks like things have really closed up for the lead fight. Lundberg and Hagner have found their way up to Rondeletto and Polisek just in time for more GTPs to be coming through. First one on the scene is going to be Seamus Power, who you'll see diving up the inside of turn 2 right there. Slots himself in just in time for the infield, and the acceleration once they get up to speed of those GTPs is crazy. He's able to almost leapfrog from one GTO to the next. As into the pits comes the Project 26 Lion GP car. Luciano Hitzberg brings it into pit lane, presumably something to do with the damage there after 33 laps done.
I would have to assume, also seeing Raul Rosas Guardia coming down into pit lane as well. Not sure if that is related to the two of them getting into an incident with each other, but on lap 39, we are technically in the pit stop window, so maybe just somebody trying to do something off cycle, see if they can change anything up and maybe gain a position or two out of it.
Yeah, I mean, what's the worst that can happen? You know, you get your damage fixed, and you have a fresh car then, or at least as fresh a car as you can afford to get for the next middle stage of the race. And if you need to pit and take a splash again near the end, then so be it. I think at this stage of the race, priority number one is to keep that car rolling and clean.
I think you're absolutely right. We haven't even hit the halfway point. For those wondering, by the way, it is lap 70 where we will hit that halfway point. So we still got plenty of time left to go. And I think you've just got to focus on being clean. I mean, we saw the chaos in the opening couple of laps, drivers trying to jump their way ahead. But it looks like we've got that replay of why the number 26 came on into pit lane racing. It sounds like this is because of damage.
Yes, GTP around the outside and GTP on the way in. Oh, a little bit of a slither there, and it was only a slight brush in the end. That's interesting. But, you know, the bodywork on the front of the Audi is basically just fiberglass construction, if I'm not wrong, and I may very well be. So you want to try and keep the front end as smooth as you can on that car. There's been a driver change in that machine as well. Konrad Kula has taken over the reins of that number 26 as we keep our eyes peeled on our GTO leaders. The G-Force racing car now losing a bit more time to Octavio Rondoletto. There's 0.4 of a second in it between our leaders, with Lundberg and Hagner still chasing.
Yeah, I really like what I'm seeing here out of Octavio Rondoletto. I mean, just this slow, steady, methodical draw into the back of Michael Polasek, just reeling him in lap after lap. And I'm getting the sense here that if you are Rondoletto, you do one of two things. You either try to make this overtake in pit lane when we have those pit stops coming up and what we think is going to be about 6 laps time, or you wait for a little bit of traffic to come your way. I don't think if you are Rondoletto, you try to force this issue. You know you've got more speed. You don't need to prove it.
Yeah, if anything now, it seems like Rondoletto's just a little bit more in control of his machine. I've been keeping an eye on Polasek, and he is sliding that car on the exits. Not the end of the world. Being four-wheel drive, the car will pull itself out of the corners anyway, but it seems like Polasek is struggling now with those tires as they're rapidly reaching the end of their usable lifespan. A little bit of traffic as well for Company 2, which is going to bring the gap down ever further. There's another car ahead of them here as that slight contact between Rondoletto and Alexei Seleznev behind. Now, Benjamin Massey is going to have to let Polasek go, or will he? That's tough.
He is not under any obligation to let him by in that number 25 machine. Massey, it is on, the impetus is on the passing car as we're going to go 3 wide down into turn 11, and somehow they all sort themselves out, but that is all from the rear view of Michael Polasek. He can breathe heavy as he's got a little bit more gap between himself and Rondoletto.
I felt my blood pressure rising seeing that 3 wide. Can't imagine what the heart rate and numbers are looking like for the drivers involved. Now it's time for more GTPs to come up on them, and it is in fact our race leader in GTP making his way past there, Christian Hildgaard in the yellow submarine Pennzoil livery machine. That's going to put a little bit more space between our leaders in GTO. The gap sitting now at about 0.7 of a second between Polasek and Rondoletto.
And we've said it before, and I will say it again, traffic given, traffic taken away. It's exactly what we see here in that battle. Farther back in the field, this is Noel Lundberg trying to sort themselves out as they get through that lap traffic we just saw our leaders get through.
Very close quarters coming up the hill on the way to the corkscrew, and Benjamin Massey and Noel Lundberg will run side by side there. Big slide from Lundberg, which we weren't able to catch live, but he has managed to save it. Worth pointing out, Hayata Osaga's view here is he's got Audi after Audi after Audi to pass in the second half of the lap, and well, around the outside looked like there was just enough room there. Careful on the way into the final corner though, you don't want to hit the car in front.
I thought he was going to go for it on Massey there as well. Osaga, devilishly quick, but maybe just a little over-aggressive, maybe a little over-eager here in the opening stages. He was running up and fighting for the top 5. He now finds himself 14th.
Very late dive at turn 2, but it seems like the GTO in question saw him coming. That is Joni Hagner, who still sits in 4th place at the moment. huge gap to the next cars back. It seems like Brett Gardner is about 23 seconds behind Joni Hagner at the moment, so it doesn't matter if he has to go wide in a few places, give up time to some GTPs. He's not under any threat for position.
No, he's not, and we'll just have to see how he decides to play this out and what he decides to do. I mean, I could see some aggressive running for him. I could see him really wanting to push his way ahead. I could also see him saying, you know what, I'm going to hold back a little bit and let Rondoletto maybe run his stuff out a little bit more. They will take tires in these pit stops, so we will see. Checking back on the number 5 machine as we jump our way through the field. This is the number 10. In that GTP category. This is Alex Chilcutt, who we talked about a little bit earlier, having an incident.
Indeed. Into the final corner then. Alex Chilcutt has made a pretty good recovery, all things considered. Did lose quite a bit of time, but remains in 16th place, about 6 seconds back to the next car, and catching up to Edwin Onofre as well. The lap times are going to ebb and flow though, so as long as you get a consistent run through that traffic, it will come to you. Dispatches the second place GTO, and very shortly you'll find his way past Polasek as well, but that looked like a little bit of a miscommunication there between Chilcutt and Polasek. Michael turned in, but Chilcutt was already making his way up the inside.
Yeah, and for Polasek, that slowed him down a little bit, put Rondoletto right back into contention with this. And so the battle is now on once again for P1 in the GTO category. Rondoletto trying to close down on the back of Polasek. Not going to see that pass done here into the corkscrew, I think, but Rondoletto knows that this is late in the stint. I don't know what his tires are like, but he could definitely try to force an error here out of Polasek. Obviously easier said than done. Michael Polasek, one of the most experienced and steady hands in GTO competition.
That he is. But yeah, you mentioned tire life. Worth thinking about. The tires will obviously be changed in the pit stops, as you said, but how long are they actually going to last in these conditions? It was 95 Fahrenheit at the start of the session. It's, I think, increased a couple of degrees from there. On my end, because I live in metric land, it's showing 41 Celsius, which is 105 Fahrenheit. The track is absolutely cooking right now, and I think those tires are too.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that's crucial to keep in mind here is that 12, 13 mile an hour wind speed. We have to remember that this track is really built on the bottom and then on the summit of, I'm going to call it a mountain, a hill, whatever you want to do. And as you rise up the backside of the hill, you get a lot of wind, particularly through this area of the track, which is not what you want because it's the highest commitment area on the track. I think the aerodynamics could be thrown off a little bit by a few of these drivers.
Yeah, that's going to be a problem, particularly for the GTPs, which are much more aerodynamically sensitive than the GTOs, which are effectively bricks on wheels. The gap will continue to come down here between Polasek and Rondoletto. They're on lap 40 at the moment. We were hearing that lap 43 or so is roundabout when you'll start to see our leaders come into the lane. So only a few laps left before we start seeing that. Is Rondoletto going to make the move before then, or will he wait? You were talking about that before, DJ, and I'm inclined to think that just waiting for the pit cycle to get it done is worth thinking about. There is potential, if you've got clear track ahead of you, to try and overcut and maybe leapfrog your competition.
You read my mind, Reese. That's exactly what I was thinking Rondoletto may want to do. The only problem with that is you do run the risk of running into lap traffic on that overcut, on that in-lap. If you're not able to maximize, if you've got a GTP coming through that slows you down by 2/10 in a corner, that could throw off the whole strategy and you find yourself worse off. So it's high risk, high reward, but by the same token, if he's able to make that move in the pit lane rather than on the track, that's going to be a little bit easier. Thought about making it there down to the corkscrew, but decided not to go for it.
Yeah, too much risk, especially at this stage of the race. At the end of this lap, GTOs will likely have about 93 laps to go. So battle for the lead in GTO on the bottom. We're keeping up with our GTPs racing for 6th place. Up ahead, John Schwartz and Alexei Alomar fighting over that last position in the top 6. Some old school iRacing World Championship names taking part there in the GTP class, particularly Alexei Alomar is a name that rings a bell for me, and racing for the INEX team, which was a big presence in international sim racing competition in years past, and still is.
Yeah, good to see them here, and whoa, that was a big wiggle there for Aloma. Able to gather that back up underneath them, but that was a very scary twitch. We're seeing that quite a bit. It's what we've talked about, Reese. It's that turbo spooling up and kicking in, and it can just catch you off guard in these Nissans.
Yeah, there's a lot of long corners at Laguna Seca, and they are high-speed, high-low corners too, so you don't often see the turbo kick in until the car is just about out of the corner, but you don't quite have the grip you need to keep the car stable on the exit at that stage of the corner. So managing that turbo lag, managing how much power you have at your disposal is a really important part of driving these cars. We've got another GTP in pit lane meanwhile. Seems like the slow motion racing black car Sul Ashutwi has made his way into the lane, and Alexei Alomar is going to find his way past John Schwartz, because in comes John into pit lane.
Yeah, we're seeing pit stops really starting to fire off here. Camel GT Japanese gang, Arete Esports coming in as well. This does look like the pit window is officially open for GTP stops. That's the number 20 taking service there, and that's Jason Green going to be getting behind the wheel of the car. So driver swaps can happen. You are able to run this solo, as we anticipate this only being about 3 hours of a race, but we are seeing driver swaps here to keep up with the spirit of endurance racing.
Lovely to see. Our leaders in GTO have closed up. Alomar, who stayed out of the pits in his GTP, almost ran into Michael Polasek at turn 2. The number 23 is in as well, the Project 91 Academy car in the GTP class. But this is the lap right here, lap 43 for the GTOs, when we're expecting them to come in. So we'll keep our eyes trained on our leaders there as the stops are complete for quite a few GTPs at the moment. I'm seeing pit stops varying from about 40 to 48 seconds.
That seems like it's about the right window. We have been told they will take tires. They will take a full load of fuel as well. Battle for GTO starting to heat up here a little bit as Rondoletto's really starting to put the pressure. Here comes Polasek in pit lane. This is exactly what you talked about, Reese. Go for the overcut. Let's see if Rondoletto can pull it off.
Really maximizing the exit of the final turn there to get some momentum on Polasek, but into the box then goes Michael, and immediately up on the jacks to get those tires changed. Whether or not we'll be seeing a quicker or a shorter pit stop from him remains to be seen. There is a little bit of variance on how long you can go in these cars, and it really depends on what's on the track in front of you that decides when you come in within your window. But for the moment, we'll see Ottavio Rondoletto continue on, and it seems like it's taken a while for Polasek to be joined in pit lane. Derek Heiberger running in 5th as the next GTO to come in.
Your leader in the GTP category also taking pit stops as well. Fiercely Formula Merchants, Alan Bretau taking over the wheel from Hilgard. And so now, although we keep our eye on Rondoletto, Polasek looks like he's staying in the car. So we're looking at an overcut strategy for both of the second place cars in GTP and in GTO. I think for Jacob Reed, the problem is that gap expanded up to a couple of seconds. Rondoletto has to let the GTP on by. Let's keep our eyes here. Does Rondoletto come in on this lap, or is he going to go for one more push? He's going for another push.
Yeah, okay. He obviously thinks that he'll be able to get a big overcut going on Polasek if he plays his cards right. Polasek is out of pit lane, and the pit stop for him took 40.7 seconds according to my timing. That is the quickest GTO pit stop we've seen so far. Camden Kraft has taken over the Hyperion number 44 from Derek Heiberger, and that car took about 45 seconds in the pit box.
All right, so that's about what we're seeing here. I think if you get into those low 40s, that's going to count as a good pit stop time for you. Fastest I'm seeing is Raul Guardia rather. That was a 39 flat. Hit road time sounding like it's going to be in the 20 seconds category. So, all right, we've got another one coming in. This is the 111. This is GMF Racing. Gabriel Martinez bringing that machine into pit lane.
Martinez, we checked in on him a little earlier. He had a couple of minor whoopsie moments when he was on camera, but he's made a pretty good recovery, has to be said. He'll be contending for third spot as Elomar's going to bring the Inex car in behind him. Seamus Power in the working title racing machine is also going to make his way in. And fiercely Formula Merchants, Alain Breteau is going to pass them all, as will John Babineau. They've already taken their pit stops, but interesting to note that Babineau 16 laps ago came in for a stop. He's running a bit off strategy, I think, due to damage. Meanwhile, Rondoletto's still staying out.
I'm impressed by this. We were told that about the farthest they would go is 47. Rondo clearly has something. You saw on your screen, by the way, Jacob Reed coming down into pit lane. So we'll see how he comes out in relation to Breteau and Babineau. That's going to be an interesting one for me to figure out. But this is where you might have a little bit of the give and take here for the 48 of Rondoletto. He's got two GTPs coming up behind him. If they catch him here climbing the hill into turn 4, if he gets offline, he could lose some time.
Fortunately, they all make their way past, and geez, almost to a stop there on the way into pit lane as Dean Dibdal in the Metamorphosis entry. But Rondoletto into turn 5 there was able to maximise his braking because the GTPs were just going past him at such a fast rate. They cleared him before he had to turn in. I think he's handled this pretty well. He has had some traffic as Rondoletto, some compromises to make, but I think probably not quite as much as
this is going to be close.
Racing car.
Reed may have the lead here as they come out. I think Reed has been able to jump the 11. Yes, he has. Team Jacob Reed, a new leader in GTP.
Excellent job. And currently in front by 1.4 seconds. That is in spite of having a slightly longer pit stop than Alain Breteau. Only about 0.7 of a second separating their times in the box, but I think largely that might have come down to traffic to see Jacob Reed take that.
I think that was in-lap and out-lap for Reed. Really impressive stuff. And that is textbook of how to pull this off. Reed, who started second, was involved in some fierce scraps at the beginning of the race, holding on to the coattails of that fiercely Formula Merchants machine. Lost time. That gap was, I believe, over 2 seconds when they came into pit lane. And now Fiercely Formula Merchants has John Babineau for Locked In Racing all over their rear spoiler.
Yes, keeping in mind, of course, the earlier point I made about Babineau being very off strategy compared to the other cars in his class. He's 18 laps into his stint at the moment, so he will have a lighter car and warmer tyres than Alain Breteau. He's going to make the move at the Andretti hairpin, but Breteau is not going to quite let him have it on the exit as Jacob Reed encounters traffic ahead. This is important for Breteau. He needs to not lose time here in his chase to get the lead back, but Babineau is going to go for it again, just in time to get two Audis almost blocking the track there. Oh, that was rough.
4 wide coming out of turn 3, makes it work somehow. Does John Babineau, and he'll hold on to P2.
Rondoletto is in the pits meanwhile in the battle for the lead in GTO. So we'll keep an eye on what his pit stop time ends up being. The fight will be on, though, for second place in GTP. And have a look at that. Rondoletto, I think he might have already taken tyres. If not, if he's not taking tyres, that's a very interesting decision.
Very interesting decision. Let's see here. Again, 40 seconds, the fastest we've seen. That was Polasek at 40.2. So there's that battle for P2 in class. Rondoletto with a 42.2 coming out of pit lane. No, it's long, 47.2.
Yeah. Much longer. That is 7 seconds fully slower than Michael Polasek in the pit box. He will come out still in effective second in GTO, but with a lot of time to make up. But What that tells me is Rondoletto might try to go even longer on the second stint. Oh my goodness, that's bad. That might be Guardia, I think, that's gone around.
Oh, big damage there to the GTP machine of Guardia. Hard to tell if that is him because
No,
of
it's
the damage
not.
to the front nose. We'll try to get an idea of exactly who that is here in a second, but big damage coming up and out of turn 6. It was the 27 machine is what we're hearing. Thanks to our booth for giving us that information. That's the Arete Esports of Gabriel Pellegrino.
Yeah, and it looks like it was a slightly botched move on the way into turn 6. Turn 6, following up turn 5, my favorite corner on the circuit. Turn 6 is probably my least favorite because it's so narrow on the way in, and you've got that nasty curve on the inside. As bit of drama there ahead of Rondoletto, just avoids getting into the other GTO that went deep in the corkscrew. But yeah, Pellegrino made a pass on a GTO himself, and unfortunately didn't quite hold the brakes. Ended up getting hit head on by the Project 26 GTO.
I think that was Kevin Simpson that we saw doing his best Alex Zanardi impression there as we check back in. Coming up with the start and finish line. That was a battle with the 12. We are getting confirmation of that. So that was for position. My goodness. A lot of things flying off here in the final stages. All right, we're going to take a look at the replay of the number 27 machine. This is Gabriel Pellegrino. Reese, what do you see?
I see him going to the inside on the GTO, the rear end letting go on the way in, hits the curb, it gets worse, round he goes, and then bam, huge hit there, and the number 26 GTO ends up smashed into the wall there. Some heavy damage for a car that had already had issues in this race.
Very rough stuff there. As we watch the number 5 working their way through. This is that Tech Sport Sim Team Black, Edwin and Nofre. As they come down through the corners, that's Rainy. Always such a fun corner. Flash the headlights. Headlights not nearly as strong as they are in the modern day GTPs, but you definitely do see them as they work their way by the number 45 machine, Michael Polasek, who now finds himself in second place in that GTO competition.
Yeah, here we go, right down to turn 2 once again. That little kink to the left is technically known as turn 1 here at Laguna Seca. Some pretty fantastic driving to be seen throughout this field, but Edwin Onofre has to put on a massive drive here in the Tech Sports Sims Team Black car, a car that's already had dramas in this race and is trying to mount some kind of recovery. It's going to be tough, DJ.
That it is. All right, pit stops completed here at Laguna Seca. We are just over a third of this race gone. We expect one more pit stop. Let's go ahead and take you on board one of these amazing TVs from back in the day. Let's go, full throttle. Welcome back to the IMSA Classic 500 from WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca. Jacob Reed continues to lead in the GTE category, but we have had a very crazy situation in the terms of John Babineau, who is on an alternate strategy, having internet connectivity issues, dropping out of the session. We are not the only ones, though, that are streaming here today. We've got a couple of folks all around the world joining us here and streaming their own experiences at the IMSA Classic 500 in multiple splits. That's the joy of being able to race in one of these iRacing special events, is that you have splits that are catered to your talent level as determined by iRacing. And I understand that we've got Love 46 joining us in a lower split race. Always good to see folks like that joining us here and streaming along with us on iRacing.
Yeah, absolutely. Down in Split 2, I believe, and it's always fantastic when these special events come around because, I mentioned at the top of the show, multiple time slots, so no matter where you are in the world, you can get it done, but not just that. Racing in multiple splits as well. I think there's about 4 or 5 splits going on for this race at the moment, at least when last I checked. But we'll keep our eyes peeled in the meantime here on the racing going on out on track here in the top split. The drivers with the highest I rating. Michael Polasek still leading the way in the GTO class, but by quite a margin now, 12 laps into his stint.
Yeah, and Rondoletto, who was really his main competition further back, has fallen all the way down to 4th. And now we are ready to go check in on Love 46. There she is, coming down through turns 3 right now. 3 and into 4 and 5. As we said, this is down in that second split. Love seeing her being able to join us here. And one of the great things about iRacing is you're able to bring up and have a good time. Is she running the GTO?
Yeah, GTP, it looks like.
Well, she has more guts than I do because I cannot handle that car. I'll tell you that right now.
Oh, it's rough. It's like a giant go-kart in the way its chassis is configured. You add the oodles of downforce that it generates into that, and you've got a wild ride there. You can see from her view just how much the car is shaking around and how precise she has to be with those inputs. This is the second split that we're looking at the moment, checking in on those top drivers in the split just below this one, DJ. Looks like some close racing going on here as a GTP's making its way through on some GTOs.
Yeah, Victor Santana leading the way, and that is the number 7 that we see on screen right now. And there is the number 14, your leader. Nothing wrong with a nice classic black livery there for Santana, the Spaniard, leading the way. David Munger leading the way in the GTO class right now. And this really looks like, Reese, it's a lot more spread out than we've got up at the top split. As these drivers very much having a little bit more breathing room amongst one another for running in class.
Yes, indeed. Looks like the 7th place fight in GTP is the closest. David Bunga, though, leading by 2.1 seconds over his next GTO competitor. And that's Nemanja Radovanovic, I believe, as I just lean in and squint to see the words there on the prod feed. At the moment, this is how things stand in the GTP results in Split 2, 5.1 seconds in hand for the FFC team.
Yeah, Podium Sim Racing Red, Lone Wolf Motorsports, O'Connell Sim Sports, Grid Up Sim Racing, your top 5, and the only drivers on the lead lap. Again, proving that point that there's a little bit more of disparity in speeds there. As we go down through the order, Potato Gang LFS in 12th place. Love that Clocked Pipes Racing team. Some good names here through that. It's always one of my favorite things when you get to come up with some kind of fun names for your sim racing team.
Yeah, indeed. Team Thomas McMillan in there as well. If it's the Thomas McMillan I'm thinking of, hello. Jens Brothers Competition has a 1-2 at the moment in the GTO, and it looks like they are the only cars on the overall, on the lead lap in their class. It's quite a spread when you get a little bit further back. NGC Esports running in 3rd as we move on down through the field. It looks like Shepherd Endurance is starting to fall down the order somewhat. Already a couple of retirements from there as well. Chris Morris Racing and Spokoni Tipki od Mikoli rounding out our GTO field of 18 cars in splits here.
Beautiful overhead view of this circuit. There's that hill I was talking about, by the way, that you really do climb all the way up there if you want to go watch a race. As we keep everything in here, watching around, there is Love 46, the Kazakh driver, continuing to power her way on through, currently 12th place in class.
Yes, indeed. Working around very nicely indeed. Using all the curb on the way into turn 3, and on the way out, not much of a curb to use. You got to be very precise through this infield. It's perhaps the most technical part of what is a fantastic racetrack with quite a bit of history to it. It's built on the grounds of Fort Ord, US military camp, and that land has been in Laguna Seca's control since the 1950s. Still going pretty strong today.
Yeah, not too many changes as we're going to take a look back at our top split here and bring you back to any action. Looks like there hasn't been too many changes up through the field, but we jump back in a little bit of craziness. 3 wide coming up to the corkscrews. The GTPs trying to sort themselves out. That's your leader directly behind in the form of Jacob Reed. He's going to go side by side down the hill. Reed gets it covered off and ready to go. I believe that was slow motion racing he had to go side by side with, and working title racing of Seamus Power able to navigate cleanly. Team there as we check out on side by side in the GTO category. This is the battle for P2. Neil Lundberg and Ilka Klotitso.
Yeah, Ilka Kotisalo, I believe, one of the many Finnish drivers who love these classic cars. The fight continues for them as they make way for another GTP. And the Rusty Spatula's Glacier Racing car finding itself in this top 3 battle. They've been working things out all right so far. It's been a slow burn from them back in 4th for the majority of the first stint, but ever since that first pit cycle, they've suddenly found themselves fighting for the podium, as we did see that long pit stop from Octavio Rondoletto. And actually, now that I look at my timing, it's an uncharacteristically short pit stop for the Glacier Racing Audi, only 33 seconds in the box.
Yeah, I saw that as well. I wonder if they may be short pitted. If we thought that there could be a potential strategy to short pit on the final stop, maybe they just took that earlier, opted for track position. I'm not sure, but we said low 40s are about where you want to be. 32 seconds for Rusty Spatulas.
Yes, very difficult run through the infield for the Audi. It lumbers a little in those slow corners as we're on board now with Edwin Onofre, finding his way to the fastest part of the circuit, exits the infield back on to the original layout. Used to be just a straight shoot from where the Andretti hairpin is now up to where turn 5 is now. And there's Michael Polasek continuing to lead the GTO class, just keeping an eye on the closing speeds. I know I keep going on about it, but it really is ridiculous around a track as compact as this.
It's crazy. And the other thing that we want to point out here, and this is something that I absolutely adore that iRacing has put onto the service, and that is that real damage model, for lack of a better term, the debris model that they have put in. Oh, I love that camera. The debris model that they have put onto the circuit. You'll see those little bits of gravel flicked up onto the circuit and popping off into the background. Those are modeled into the way the car handles on the track. It is exactly like real life, that you go off, you bring the kitty litter onto the track, and you're going to lose surface grip, to the point that they even have the yellow and orange striped flag that will be displayed when there is a slippery surface ahead of you. It really changes it, and I'm noticing it a lot coming down into the corkscrew and through Rainy Curve.
Yeah, the back half of the circuit is your basically at the highest elevation. It's the most meandering part of the track, it's the most dangerous part of the track, and it's where you see the most of that gravel. There's also marbles that the drivers have to worry about too. The tires literally throw off little pebbles of rubber on the outsides of a lot of these corners. I think with the amount of side-by-side running we're seeing, this being a multi-class race, those marbles do get cleaned up a little bit more than they would if it was a single-class race, but it's still something you need to watch out for through the fast corners. You could find yourself losing grip out of nowhere.
Yeah, when we've seen it how many times here at this point that we've just multiple ones, drivers getting onto that throttle pedal, in particular the GTP, and losing it when that turbo just starts to spool up a little bit. I can't imagine driving for this long. We are 71 laps to go. We are at the halfway point here. So we're going to be clocking in at about 3 hours or so for the race. I can't imagine having to be that careful for that long.
Yeah, a really big shout out to the solo runners in this field. I think I wouldn't say one class has it harder than the other in that respect. I think both these cars are equally difficult to drive. I believe potentially no power steering in these cars either. I could be wrong on that, but stiff suspension and fast corners, there's an awful lot that goes through your wrists, your arms, your shoulders when you're piloting one of these cars around. And actually, speaking of bumps, it reminded me of suspension. I don't know if there's an onboard camera angle the crew has to show this, but those two little intakes on the rear half of the Nissan's body, it's not easy to see from the trackside cameras, but those are actually attached to the rear suspension. And if you follow a car along, you can see those little intakes moving up and down with every bump the car negotiates. It's just a nice little feature.
It goes to show the level of detail and the level of expertise that iRacing has modeled into absolutely everything they do. I mean, you want to talk about racing as pixel perfect to the real thing as you can get. It is iRacing. I can't tell you the number of times when I'm out in real life, whether it is with open wheel racers or GT racers, that we talk about, well, did you prepare for this? Yeah, I jumped on iRacing. In fact, when I was at the Grand Prix of Arlington, I had a long conversation with quite a few drivers where they said this is really hard because there was no unofficial simulator that I could go into and prep for the track. They were going to go to sim time to learn the track. They had to learn it in the official sims by Chevrolet, Honda, or whomever put it out. It wasn't a situation where you could jump onto iRacing and learn it that way.
Yeah, it just goes to show as well, nowadays how important it is to get that sim time in. It's not just a substitute for track time. It's if anything a much more efficient way to get used to a car or a track compared to actually getting out there. It's a heck of a lot cheaper as well, has to be said. But they didn't have that luxury back in the 1980s. It was all track time that they had to contend with here. And I cannot imagine being Jeff Brabham and being called up to race for Nissan in IMSA, showing up at the track and it being your first time driving this monster.
And I love that story that, he originally said no because the incident that had taken place. Also, talking about a throwback, talking about driving in Pocono on one of these things, that's when Pocono still had an infield road course.
Yes, lots of changes over the years as we're hearing of a penalty for the number 24 entry of Luke Stubbs of Australia in the Mook Racing Platinum. So putting my Aussie hat on for a second, that's a real shame. My countryman is not doing too well at the moment. Looks like he may have exceeded the incident limit, which, just to remind you all, 35 incident points is what gets you your first black flag of the session, every 20 thereafter.
And for those that are unfamiliar with the iRacing penalty system, you get a 1x if you go off track. And it looks like he's going to come down and serve that penalty now. You get 1 incident point for going off track, exceeding track limits. You get 4 incident points for heavy contact with another driver. So clearly there based on the state of that Audi. I'm going to assume that there were a few little comings together there for the number 24. This is unfortunate, though, having a good run up in the top 10. This will set him back, but I doubt this is going to be the last driver that we see pick up a penalty. The thing for Luke, however, will be that after this, it's only another 20 incidents before you pick up another penalty.
Yes, so I guess that's a bit of extra incentive to take avoiding action. Be careful not to run off the track. Checking back in with our GTO, number 48, Octavio Rondoletto, who was racing for the lead with Michael Polasek before the pit cycle, has caught up to Ilka Kotisalo, and there's not much between the Rossi Spatulas and Bike Colino entries here. I think a bit of traffic falling by the wayside for Kotisalo.
Yeah, I think it's definitely coming back to play for him as we continue to watch Rondoletto. Yeah, he's closing in, but crucially here, he's still a little bit off the pace of what we're seeing from Lundberg. We're going to check back in on the battle for GTP. Oh, that is the Tech Sport driver, I think, just clearing out of the way for this battle between Team John Schwartz and Working Title Racing.
Yeah, John Schwartz, remember, he was battling with Alexei Alomar before the pit cycle, and it seems like he's picked up some damage to the front left. That can't be fun. Across the top of the circuit here, dips a wheel into the gravel, and that's going to open maybe an opportunity for Seamus Power to find his way through, but Seamus is going to very wisely stay behind in the corkscrew. He sees GTO traffic up ahead. Marcus Zunhammer, that's a great last name, in the number 17 Audi there, lets them go. And the battle continues down to the final corners. So John, I think, needs to commit to racing with that slightly damaged front end. Of course, as I mentioned before, the Nissan a bit more aerodynamically sensitive as it appears. Rondoletto has gone by Kotisalo back into third in GTO.
Almost lost it there, though, coming through turn number 5. But yes, he has. Kotisalo has now been